It's the other stuff I can't. When I'm throwing up and laying down and my body doesn't work, that I can't do.
Yeah.
So if it's just pain, I'll figure that shit out. I'm sorry, are we recording? Okay.
Oh no, we can cut the first
Yeah,
part
that's
out.
off of me. So I'll just start this from FC. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Pete Parker. I'm with the FC Cancer Foundation. Who are you?
I'm Jason. I'm with the F Cancer Endurance Club.
And I'm Sean English. I'm the national spokesperson for both the foundation and the Endurance Club.
That's right. So we're here together with Sean and his pad, and we just have a few questions for you.
All right.
And
Well, for those of you that don't know, one of the reasons why I am a reasonable spokesperson for this organization is one, I'm 3 years into a battle with cancer, as well as I was public speaking for a living before this all began.
so since you already went there, how did you find out that there was an issue?
Back pain.
Yeah?
Something as simple as back pain. Yeah, I was training. I had been working in the industry quite a bit, and I would say that I was hearing you used to be a lot. And so I decided that I would get back into shape, so I was doing my secret training. And I started having backaches. We all get backaches, especially when we're all athletes. We're all running, swimming, biking, climbing, whatever we're doing, chasing our kids around. And we just attribute those things to nothing. So it was back pain. Back pain, I should have followed
And
up.
where were you? What were you doing?
I had been riding at the time, and like I said, I'd been loading a lot of miles, kind of the opposite of proper training. And as a former coach, I'm going to probably get a lot of crap for this, but I was loading in a bunch of junk miles just because it was fun. And so I attributed most of the pain to stress and overloading, and it had been a long time. And in my mind, I was teaching myself to suffer again. Bad idea. The backache stopped me from running. Then the backache stopped me from swimming. Yep, believe it or not, swimming. And I think I was rotating a little too much. And then I was left with cycling. And somehow I convinced myself that I could clip in, even with a weak leg, get on my bike, and pedal 40, 60, 80 miles, and then limp off the bike, and then stretch, hot shower, whatever. And just I kept attributing that to, this is just too much training. I need to just lighten my load a little. Boy, was I wrong.
How long were you having the pain for?
Several weeks. It went on. I would say it really became pronounced in June of 2016. I was actually in Seattle I was working with the Rock and Roll Marathon team, and Wessling and I were there announcing the Rock and Roll Seattle Marathon. And at the time, I was also attempting to do the 22 for 22. I was trying to do a good thing for our veterans. We're losing a lot of veterans, 22 a day to suicide. So a lot of us, like the ALS Challenge, got involved in this, and everybody has a platform. I feel like you have an obligation to do something with it. So I was doing my push-ups, but they weren't working, and my shoulders were really hurting, like they shouldn't have been hurting. I was struggling to do 22 push-ups. Come on. No offense, but it shouldn't have been a problem for me. When you're about this big around and doing nothing but working out, you should be able to do a few push-ups. That still didn't tell me anything. And I went to a race again I flew to Portland, Maine, and I ended up in the hotel. I passed out from the pain. Pain was so bad that I went unconscious, woke up a couple hours later. I was like, okay, something's really wrong. I had had back injuries in the past. I know it's crazy, but I had started my career as an athlete, as a skier, a lot of impact to the back. Had done some injury, thought it was just a herniated disc, which I'd been told before, or maybe a buildup of scar tissue. Things you can manage through physical therapy and massage therapy and things that don't require that MD or DO after their name. So I just kind of went with it, and then I realized on the flight back that it was impossible. I went from the airplane to the hospital. They gave me x-rays. The doctor found nothing. Found out later that he was either blind or just completely inept. And had an MRI. 20 days later, he kept me on a rotation of steroids and just basic painkillers trying to control the swelling. He thought it was herniated disc. That's standard protocol. But when I insisted on an MRI, and my family said he's insisting on an MRI, it was never about the money. It was always about the inconvenience, and probably more in the back of my mind what I might find. I'm getting older. I'm in my later 40s.
Right.
Maybe things are different. I'm adopted. I don't know my medical history. But I was fit. I was in shape. I ate well. I've been doing all the things I was supposed to do. And it didn't seem to make a difference. It really doesn't make a difference, folks. I hate to tell you. But so the MRI told me that I was in terrible trouble, and they took me straight to the hospital. Apparently, I was unstable, and that was what was concerning everybody. The cancer had destroyed so much of one of the vertebrae that, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in there holding you together. It's not like you just kind of flop over, but there was a serious threat that if I had taken a blow or turned the wrong way, that I could have severed my spinal column. I would have been paralyzed on top of dealing with cancer.
Right.
And those that are, brothers and sisters, boy, I got to tell you, I don't know how you do it. Because just dealing with one is more than enough. So it started this whole landslide of, you hear that news and that's all you hear. And for me, I've been working in nonprofits for so long, and we'd made such advances that I kind of thought, okay, well, we get better, right? We're going to do something and I'm going to be good. And they were very clear that I was stage 4 terminal. And you hear that again, it sets you back. Once you're in the cancer world, you realize that doctors kind of take what they say with a grain of salt. It is called the practice of medicine, just saying. Anyway, no, I wouldn't be where I am without science and the doctors that are out there. And I am, believe me, so incredibly grateful for the care that I've received. And it is science that's keeping me alive right now. Science, goodwill, faith, friends, family, the things that are important. You find out quickly what's important. But for me, I tried to figure out the best path, and I was trying to find a way to share what I was going through so that others may not have to without doing exactly what I did, which was turn it into this giant dog and pony show. I just really felt like if someone could benefit from what I've been going through and not have to go through it, just one. And I know that sounds corny and cliche, but just one, man, because it's horrible. And it shatters every aspect of your life. And this whole notion of having insurance is ridiculous. It's an absolute joke. I have insurance. I have very good insurance. I was coming anywhere. I was $1 million into this in no time. And so if you think you're financially prepared for it, you're not. So you're going to get hit physically. Your whole life is shattered. You're going to be hit emotionally. There's your infrastructure. You're going to hit with jobs, of course, for me. It started to fall away. I mean, with good reason. You can't count on a race announcer that's in treatment because he might be sick. I've never missed a start that I've been committed to, just for the record, other than when I was in the hospital. And then it hits you financially, that's taken out from under you, and it questions your faith, man. If you're a person of faith, and not everybody is, and whatever your thing is, I just hope that there's something greater than yourself, because if there isn't, you're in deep shit. Family, something that you can find strength in. But when you're going to shatter all of those things, what do you have left?
Right.
Yeah.
So I clung to you guys. I reached out to the community that I'd been a part of for almost 20 years, and that was the endurance sports community. And I'd worked enough in nonprofits, announced enough events for these organizations, and been a part of them to know that there are good people out there that just want to help for the sake of their own experience or because they've been a caregiver. Right now, people, if you're in treatment and you're treating your caregivers like crap, check yourself. Because you're lucky if you got someone that's sticking by you through all of this. Say please and thank you, no matter what. Because that stuff becomes more valuable than anything else. Everybody wants to know what they can do, or they're all sorry, and I just say, why, did you give it to me? It's nothing to be sorry for. Maybe sorry for the circumstance and sorry for what you'll miss. But, I just felt like I needed to do something, make something out of it. I reached out to the community, and the response was overwhelming. I mean, from Wadi and the crew, Sean and Heather, I'd been friends with them for a while. They stepped up, and people started doing things for me without telling me, which is almost better, because I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, I didn't know what came next, and it was more a matter of just how are you? What do you need? It's not bringing over food until it rots because you usually can't eat. It's not necessarily being there the whole time because sometimes you want to be alone. But there's a lot of things you can do, little things, driving, things like that. It may take you an hour to get there for only 15 minutes of driving, but it's worth it. We appreciate it. Anyway, I talk too much.
You actually brought up a really good point. We talked about this earlier. People always say things to you and ask you certain questions. People like us that aren't going through what you're going through, what are the good things to say, maybe the things that we shouldn't say? Because I remember in Kona, A couple people said a certain phrase to you.
Yeah. There's two.
Yeah, there's two.
There's two.
But there was one that I took umbrage with.
Yeah.
And I know you definitely did.
Mhm.
So would you like to kind of maybe
Sure.
explain that?
There's two comments you never want to make to anybody that's going through any sort of battle with any major issue. One, don't compare it to the human condition. We all gotta go sometime. You know, I could die tomorrow. Please, just save that for yourself. It's not the same. It's not. So I appreciate the attempt at the, I guess you'd call it empathy, but please don't. Just don't. It's not good. Because it's not. The other one is, you look great.
Yeah, that's the one.
You look great. God, you look so much better than last year. That was the one that got me. I was like, wow, how did I look last year? Like, oh my. I mean, I get that
You were a little pale last
I know. Well, look, come on. You're talking to the most vain group in the world, triathletes. We're the ones that look for any excuse to walk around in the least amount of clothing possible. And at 45 years old, I think I finally got there. And now all of a sudden I'm sporting an extra 35, 45 pounds because the treatments attacked my thyroid. And so instead of getting skinny and looking like the frail, anemic little triathlete, I look like a healthy, robust individual.
Dad bod.
Yeah, dad bod without the dad. So yeah, when people say, God, you look great, I take some of the flattery. It's nice to hear, and I know it's awkward. Don't know what to say. I think it's even better if you just say, hey man, I don't know what to say. I just don't. Or just, just sort of let them know that the circumstance is crap. That's all we really want to know, is that you identify with what we're going to do and how bad it's going to be, and that's it. Don't dwell on it. Ask us how our kids are doing or how our day is going, or if they don't. Look, a lot of people don't go through what I go through because they haven't had catastrophic reconstruction of their spine. That changed everything. I honestly believe that if I could still run, I would be in a great place right now. That sounds weird, but I would be in a much better place. I mean, it would just make my life so much different and better, also because that was my therapy.
So what you're saying is, like, even if you're scared to call you or anything, a simple phone call, how you doing?
Oh man, it means everything, because it means you're just being thought of. And if it's 10 seconds, and say that to them, I got 10 seconds, because we'll just talk. We got someone on the phone. And if it's someone like me, I'm like, you're dead in the water. Just tell me. Just give me some boundaries. I'm like, okay, bye. But yeah, just the effort. And it's not Facebook. Doesn't have to be Facebook public. You're not going for points, people. It's just letting somebody know that you care.
But my Instagram needs to know that I called you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Your Instagram misses you so much without it. But yeah, if it doesn't happen on Fraudbook, it didn't happen.
So, when you were first diagnosed, they gave you a timetable?
They did. They gave me 3 to 5 years, and no doctor wants to do this. It's like pulling teeth, because they don't know, and they really don't. They have the best of their ability based on the information they have that day. And to be honest, in science, and especially in cancer right now, thank you, ladies. Famous saying, Margaret Thatcher, I read it, so I hope it's real. She said, if you want to talk about it, get a group of men. You want to do something about it, get a group of women. And that's true, because if women had not mobilized for breast cancer, you would not have all these other organizations mobilizing about the other cancers, not to mention the shared data. I mean, we can pull a lot of data from those test fields, and it's not just for the boobs. So it's working, not to mention how rapidly breast cancer is rising in men. Guys, I know there's some stigma with that, but I think you're going to rather be alive to talk about your breast cancer and giggle than to be dead. So let's get into it. But yeah, it was a timetable they don't want to give you. And the first time you go into a cancer support group, the first person that talks to you goes, don't listen to what those doctors say. I've been told 6 times to go home and die. I'm like, okay, great. I like hearing that. There's a guy in my support group, and it's sad that he doesn't come to the group anymore. But he's our curmudgeon. He's had like 3 primary cancers and 2 secondary cancers. He's been battling for 19 years. And the first 19 years ago, he was told to go home and get his affairs in order. And he's still with us. So they gave me 3 to 5. I beat the 3. I feel pretty good about it. I'm shooting for that 5. I've got a few goals down the road that I'd like to get to. Unfortunately, there's some hurdles, but we'll see.
So this video is super important because I want to know Sean English before the definition of cancer.
Oh boy. Sean English before the definition of
Like,
cancer.
what was Sean as an athlete? What was Sean as an announcer?
Oh man. Sean as an athlete was mediocre, which is why he became an excellent coach. And that's not to say that mediocre athletes make great coaches, or that great athletes make good coaches or bad coaches, or whatever you want to infer from that. As an athlete, I enjoyed the sport. I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the community probably more than anything else. As much as I was a solitary runner, because that really was my catharsis. That's where that's where I solved everything in life, was on runs. I would get lost and disappear. Most of my ultra runs were by mistake. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I would be like 20 miles deep into a run in one way, into a run that's only supposed to be 20 miles altogether. It turned into a very long day of eating bark and bushes, but you get by. But yeah, I was a very active participant, and that actually rolled into my coaching as well. I did not do remote coaching unless you had worked with me previously, and that's not to say the remote programs aren't great. Guys, and women, don't come after me now with that. I don't want to fight about coaching philosophy anymore, so I don't do it. You're all right. Whatever it is you're selling, you're all right. But if you're following Matt Dixon, you probably really are doing it right. And a number of other coaches I should plug, but I won't. And I just enjoyed sharing the knowledge and sharing the wisdom, and that was something that was pointed out in me when I was an athlete. One of my coaches said, "You're good as a captain. You'd be better as a coach." And and I went and I will give credit to Ian Murray and Jamie Silber in Los Angeles. They had Acme coaching at the time, turned into Triathletics. It's now gone on to many different things, but they allowed me the opportunity to be their shadow. I wouldn't call it an internship because it really wasn't structured, but I got to shadow them at workouts with a nonprofit, and then with them privately when I earned when they saw that I wasn't going to screw up any of their clients. I got to work kind of directly under them, which was great. I would say an internship or 18 months with somebody who's going to beat 3 days in the classroom, folks. Sorry. But I like that part, and that's what they showed me, is that you need to have a relationship with your athletes and understand your athletes, because everyone's different. And so I love that part of coaching, but it is time consuming. It takes up all of your time, and if you're trying to train and coach and your crew gets bigger, you start thinking about teams, and it just got to be too much. But beyond that, I had found a calling in race announcing. I've always been having fun as the center of attention, and I just like to entertain. I like
we
people.
had no idea.
Yeah, not at all. Not me. I just like people to have a good time. I like people. It's more for the joy of what I get from everybody else in the process, and maybe that sounds like a snow job, but it's not. It's the reality of the joy that I get by sharing these milestones with people that are insane. So whether I was coaching and celebrating someone's first sprint, or someone qualifying for Ironman, and whether I was, coaching a crew or announcing a race that was, a women's sprint or a junior sprint somewhere, or whether I'm, fortunate enough to be announcing a full distance somewhere and calling some of the most amazing pro athletes across the finish line. I mean, I've had the pleasure of picking their brain at dinner as well to find out what they're doing. So it's also an education. So I'm constantly learning. I just like sort of being that sort of intermediary, I guess, trying to build everybody up in a sport now that seems like everybody's trying to tear each other down. People try and tear each other down. So I try to take those same philosophies and put them in my treatment, and the way I approach my treatment and how I'm sharing my treatment, which was not an easy decision, and it was one out of desperation. It was because I'm not married, I don't have children, I no longer have a significant other, and we'll leave that alone. We should definitely cut that part, guys. Cut.
Edit.
Yeah, edit. What's that? But I didn't have that, so I made a very conscious decision to reach out, and because of all the things I've been talking about, I was lucky enough that they responded in a positive way, and in an overwhelmingly positive way, in a way that I never would have expected, because I really had no idea what was happening around me for the first 60 days. Everything, for me in particular, because I was in hospital for 35 days, and it was just such chaos that just paying my rent. I mean, the fact that I had set up everything for travel, thank goodness. I was able to pretty much do everything from my hospital bed. When I had a moment of clarity, my brother would help me, and we needed to pay, and I'd get there, and it was just, but that ran out quick. So I'm grateful to everybody. As much as you don't ever want to find yourself in that situation, that whole notion of 3 months in the bank, it should have been 6 months 6 years ago, and it should have been probably 6 years, because it's gone. So I was grateful that there were programs available to me. People made grants available to me. Most recently, next weekend, we'll be down in Thousand Oaks area for the Mike Nosko Memorial Ride. I've been named an honoree or a recipient of the fund, which is unbelievable. It'll definitely help pay some bills. But that's all the side that people don't think about. You know, they all want to think about the medical side of it, but they don't think about the emotional or the financial side or the spiritual side, if you are such, you know? So just some things to think about, and the fact that I was responded to in such a way that I want to keep passing it on. I want to give back what was given to me once again, and that is just, this is really going to sound cliche, and it's going to sound very, I don't know. If one person, just one of you out there does not attribute the ache and the pain to just a ride or a run or overtraining or getting on in age. I hear, I'm getting older. What are you talking about? I call people 80 years old across the line. They were doing something right. I don't think they were dismissing pain. So just at least annually, folks, just go get checked. And we're going to giggle about it. The numbers are there. It's well over 30% of individuals have their lumps found by the significant other. So I know people don't want to talk about it. It's going to make young people giggle. But for young men, 17 to 25 it's growing up for testicular cancer.
Sure.
And as cyclists especially, we just attribute that to miles in the saddle. Oh yeah, my undercarriage is a little numb. Well, it's been numb for quite a while, and you might not want to, just because things seem to be working properly doesn't mean they always will, and it might be an indicator for you. But anyway, it's just get out there, and ladies, get checked, check yourself. I know there's a lot of all kinds of strange information out there, and I don't know. I am not the end-all be-all, but I will be the person, I will be the catalyst to push you in. And if you can't afford it, you don't have insurance, there are programs. Trust me, it's important. If you got to go to the next town to save embarrassment, I don't care. Do it. It's vital. It could mean your life. Stage 1, when they find it, stage 1 is a great story you tell your grandkids about how you beat cancer. Stage 2 is a little bigger battle, but you got a good chance. Stage 3, you kind of crossed over into no man's land. And stage 4, you run out fast. And there are those in the cancer community that say, oh, he's being an alarmist and all these stuff. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Believe me, when they said I was stage 4 terminal, now whether that stretches out to 40 years because they keep finding drugs, awesome. You are still living with the fact that you are battling for the next drug. So, I don't know. You can either blow me off, or you can take me seriously and go get yourself checked out. You make the choice.
So I'm going to go back.
Okay.
So, when you were announcing...
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. See?
No, it's fine. No, this is what you do, and this is why we love you. So, when you were announcing, what is...
All the way down the rabbit trail.
What's your favorite race you've ever announced, and what's your most memorable?
Oh my gosh, wow. My favorite race to announce had to be Wildflower.
I knew you were going to say that.
I was going to say it. And I've announced all over the country, and I've been fortunate enough to announce some amazing races. There are a lot of amazing races that I haven't announced, but in my storied past, I would say Wildflower, for all the reasons and all the stories you've ever heard. They were all true. I hate to tell you this, but they really were.
They really
that
are.
You should have been here last year. Absolutely 100% true, and if you don't agree, then you weren't there. It's just that simple. And the fact that we let another one go, people, that's on you. Sorry, gotta get that plug in there. It was just the experience because we built a community. There's nothing there but a lake, and sometimes there's not a lake, we found out, but there's supposed to be
a race though.
Yeah, there was still a race. But the fact that we came together as a community, and that's something about triathlon that stands out more than marathon, more than ultra. Well, ultra I'd say is right there. Actually, trail running in general is probably the last bastion of, I don't know, just sport. Anyway, it's oh man, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, it was just the fact that it was community. We built it up there. We got together. We supported each other. We tore each other up on race day, and that night we took care of each other.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't matter what it was like when you're out there on the course. You still, even if you had you would want to beat your bitter rival because you beat them, not because they got a flat. So you're chucking them a cartridge and hoping USAT doesn't see it. You're like, that's not outside 8. I'm in the race. Because you wanted them to be a part of it. You know, it wasn't as cutthroat, I guess. And someone told me the other day that Wildflower failed because they weren't part of the Apex Predator program, and I said, "You just answered my question for me." I said, "Thank you for making my point," and because it's never meant to be, bro. You guys have created that.
Yeah.
It's all about winning in competition, but it doesn't need to be like this.
No, Wildflower is more of like a bunch of family just getting together for like a reunion.
It really is. It's a lot of fun, and it was getting better, man. The music was getting better. The event was getting better. We were adding more.
What was it like calling Heather across?
Wow. Being there for Heather's career is really...
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah, I've had a lot of wonderful relationships with a lot of pro triathletes. I remember when Miranda Carfrae, Rennie, when she first showed up in this country, and she was bouncing around, didn't have her pro card yet, I don't think, and she was a phenomenon. She was this young lady, and look what she's turned into. I've had the pleasure, every announcer and people around the sport have that sort of lineage where they were a part of it, whether they were coaching, announcing. And for me, Heather really had enough of a footing as an announcer that I had enough credibility there, so my career was going well. And then I got to kind of rise with her almost, because I was there for most of her victories at Wildflower. I was gone for a couple of years working on other series, but it was wonderful to be there. And then the relationship developed, because I remember when Sean Waddy Watkins started Waddy Inc. We were in Hawaii, I think 2009, and he walked up to me and he was doing other things, so he was trying to keep this on the DL, and he reached into his backpack and handed me a hat, and all he said was, "They'll tell you more later." Sean, I'm still waiting. What does the W hat mean? Are you going to tell me what this is all about? Because you still haven't told me. I have a little bit of an idea now, but anyway, so, and I got to watch Heather grow as an athlete and grow as an individual and grow as an ambassador for the sport, and how she always gives back to the community. They're all about the community. All these people that I keep coming back around to, it seems to be the same thing, sense of community. And, that's what's driven me to reach out to this group. It drove me to be a part of this group, and it drives me to want to save this group. And yeah, Wildflower was amazing. The ones that were on a huge scale, and it's just because of the production value alone that make these things worthwhile. It was fun on Rock and Roll, but the production value there is insane. But the Nike Women's Marathon, when you're out there, it goes back to that Margaret Thatcher comment, you want to talk about it, get a group of guys, you want to do something, get a group of women. When you've got 25,000 women fired up about running a half marathon or a marathon, you better be in a city like San Francisco or something with a lot of structure, man, because there you go off. And it was so much fun. The energy, it was palpable. It was electric. The whole experience was just, look at me, I'm still talking about it. I haven't done it in several years. That and working with Cree Kelly at the Disney World Marathon, the year that our weekend was the largest running event in the world. Okay. The next year we were beat by the London because they added a 5K or something. Well, we did 5K, 10K, all these things you could do to add up.
How many people raced?
65,000 or something ridiculous. I don't remember the numbers. I'm sure someone will beat people. There's going to be a yes and a no, a pro and a con for everything I say through this whole deal. So pick a side.
Yeah, if you wanted me to put the camera towards that table, you would understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I say treatment does a little bit between pain and chemo and nerve and everything else. There's a lot going on. You might be seeing one of the greatest additions and one of the things that people help me with as well. This is Cash. He's being trained to be my service animal. I think you're probably getting his worst side right now, but he tends to show that off. He's quite proud. Anyway, it's that it was being a part of those crazy kind of the production value, the over the top with, cameras and film crews and helicopters and all that stuff. Escape from Alcatraz was the same.
Yeah.
It really comes down to production value. When they put all that up, you kind of walk out there and you're standing in front of an audience of 35, 40,000 people freaking out, like, wow. And they're all listening to the stuff that's coming out of my mouth. I think that's made my family more afraid than anything else. They're just not sure. My mom found out what I did for a living, and she did kind of find out. She said, "Are they aware of what you might say?
Oh.
The things you're capable are coming out of your mouth." And
Thanks,
I said,
Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom, but I think they're aware.
Sweet. Well, I just met you like 2 years ago, and I represent the FC Cancer Foundation. I wasn't on the Tri team, and it was just becoming a small force at the time. But you quickly, caught our attention, and you became the first ever, and still only, national spokesperson.
Well, I would say Brandon was the first spokesperson.
For sure.
Yeah, because he was,
For sure.
Brandon won.
So
You'll
since
understand
then-
that later. Since then, and sorry.
No. So tell me about how that experience has been for you.
It's been unbelievable. And to be honest, it gave me something. It gave me something that I needed desperately, and that was something outside of me and a platform in order to do what I want to do, which was started off as something I called my campaign of kindness, which was if you could do one simple thing a day, it doesn't cost anything, man. Just smile, ask somebody genuinely how their day is going. That has an effect. It's a ripple effect. It helps you, it helps them, they help somebody else. Well, it was sort of the same sort of thing where when Jason had this idea and he launched it about having an endurance team, a triathlon team is where it started because of a personal story he'll share sometime. But I had known Jason just briefly through the industry, and I'd called him across the finish line, and I reached
Rock and
out.
roll.
Yeah,
Same thing.
at Rock and Roll at the
You saw my
anniversary.
hat.
That's right. I saw the hat and I dug the hat, and I reached out immediately and said, "Would you accept an honorary member?" I didn't know. I mean, I couldn't raise money or be a part of it. And his response was took about 30 seconds. He said, yes, yes, and I would very much like you to be a part of this. And then I said just what I naturally do, I talk. So I said, if there's anything I can do, if I can do any PSAs for you, if I can help at any functions, if I can announce anything, I offered to do anything that wasn't going to hit me financially. If they could get me there, I'd do it. It's really what counts for me. If I can get a clean place to sleep and an opportunity to speak, I'll do it if you can get me there because it's important. But
Oceanside.
Yeah, Oceanside. So I came down to Oceanside, and it was really going to be kind of the first foray for all of us. And the foundation had no idea what it was going to be like with the endurance team, then known the Tri team, and none of them knew what the hell was going to happen with me and what I was going to do or how it was going to work. But what I was able to do was to take the small bit of credibility I have in the industry and just walk through and just talk to everybody I could talk to with a hat on, a shirt on, a bracelet. And literally it was guerrilla. It was just handing out bracelets. Oh, you like that? Say a dirty word. It's for a good cause, whatever. I didn't care. And then it sort of kind of came up between Jason and I talking, and I said, well, do you have a spokesperson? No, not really, and that's kind of your thing, so would you be willing? And I said, yeah, but I want it to mean something. I didn't want it to be just, oh, he's our spokesperson and just stick me somewhere. It had to be actually get some traction, and now it does, and it feels better, but that kind of came out of Kona this year. But it was an opportunity to turn it into anything I wanted, and what I wanted it to be was exactly what it is. It's an opportunity for me to get out and convince you to go get checked out, to check out your partner, to whatever. Just do something about your health. But yeah, it was crazy. And then we were down there, and Brandon actually walked up to me, and he said, would you do, it was sort of really kind of, it was sort of like he just said it, and I was like, huh? And he said, well, we don't have anybody, and this is definitely in your wheelhouse, because we were at the auction, which I didn't know was for me. Kind of blew me out of the water, let me tell you. Caught me by surprise twice. Fool me once, fool me twice. So it
There
was.
may be a third time.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle a third time. Believe me, I don't know, man. It'd be definitely, it would be well received, but boy, I don't know what I would do, emotionally that is. But it was. Brandon just said that we don't have anybody, and this is what you do. And I see the way you talk to these people, and the way they talk to you. And it really wasn't that many words. I'm just trying to kind of explain the way Brandon and I just sort of went, Pfft. And he as well has done something really special for us, and that is, this is a foundation that he sort of inherited, and for all the right reasons. And he's doing really good things. Brandon doing great things, bringing in good people, and Pete and Jason are good people. And I don't know what they're doing with me, but you kind of stuck with me. I'm glad that I'm along for the ride because it's a chance for me to do what I wanted to do. And this year in Kona, when we got to do what we did, sit down and have our warrior wall up and have people sign things for those that are fighting or those that have passed, to sit down and talk to other survivors, talk to people, the caregivers. I mean, Mike Plant's wife was there. You might not know who Mike Plan is, but he's an icon in our sport, in endurance sports and multi-sport in particular. He's up there with all the names you can think of. But it was really powerful to connect with her at the event, and then other athletes, and then our Dying to Live grant recipient for our foundation. And it was everything that I hope that we can take on the road and just get people to pay attention, because we did. We got people's attention this year.
Yeah, we did.
And it was powerful, and it was a real honor to be a part of it. And more than anything, I feel like I'm carrying on a legacy, because it was Brandon that was there's two Brandons, you'll figure that out quickly. Took me a little while, but I got there. This is his, and I'm simply a caretaker of his message. And I just want to make sure that I do a proper job, that I represent with integrity and honesty as best I can the foundation. So, because I know that it means so much more than me. It's not about me. It's not about me at all. And, as a race announcer, some of that does get to be about you, because you must enjoy entertaining. You have to be comfortable being out in front of people in sometimes very uncomfortable situations. You try interviewing somebody after they come back from a doping ban. Anyway, it's important, and I'm proud and honored to do it, and I feel compelled to do it. I feel like it's something I have to do, and as long as F Cancer is willing to give me the opportunity, the FC Foundation and the FC Endurance team, I'll keep doing it. I'll keep doing it until I can't.
Well, you've got obviously a great message, but you have a ton of ideas. I mean, we go back and forth on ideas all the time. The whole experience at Kona this year is attributed to our conversations and ideas we had, and it's now going to become the norm. Not just with Kona, but with the other Dying to Live Dreams experiences, the interviews, the walls, all that.
Yeah.
We've created something. And I'm giving you the credit. We've created a monster that's going to be impactful, and that's pretty huge.
I think it is. I think we have the opportunity, and this is what I owe the credit to. This is the value in working nonprofit, people. It's not about making any money. So if you're getting into that thinking I'm going to be a director to make some dough, but where you will get rich is in knowledge, and everything that I'm sharing with them was shared with me. So again, I'm just passing it on, and I'm just the curator of it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we did. It was your experience in nonprofit, your experience in nonprofit. All of us have touched it in some way, on some level, some deeper than others, and it's important work, but that's where it came from.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah. So speaking of nonprofits, I know that you've had a couple in your life that have reached out to you, and you've reached out to. Would you like to say anything?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, first of
Those
all,
people.
yeah. Well, Wadi and the Wadi team, they were the first group to really step up. They did a private GoFundMe for me, and then they're not a nonprofit; they're a profit company, but they were there to help. And then the nonprofit, the Talbert Family Foundation, Julie Lloyd Talbert. The foundation is unfortunately no longer going, but they had given about 12 or 14 years to direct assistance programs where they literally had the money, formed a 501c3, and they knew exactly where it was going. You need rent, you need a car fixed, you need your kid's doctor bill paid for, whatever it is. So it was great. But they did it for a very long time, and it was a passion project, and they've moved on to other passion projects. Believe me, they're still incredibly philanthropic people. And there was most recently the Mike Nosko Foundation. Mike Nosko was a cyclist in Southern California who was killed in a tragic car accident. His brother wanted to pay tribute, so he holds a charity ride. They pick people from random things, whether it's a fire emergency, a health issue, some major catastrophic incident, and they raise money for you. So they're raising money for me. I was kind of blown away. I had to be nominated. There's just been and beyond that, this funny little foundation I'm working for. This little group that I thought that I was just jumping on board as a spokesperson and lending a hand has, I think we're up to 3 now. I think we're at 3, well, kind of 2.5 fundraisers and a couple of trips to Hawaii, which we've quickly, it's weird because it morphed from kind of a participant into a staff member just because it didn't make sense. So I got to figure out a way to pay for myself now. It was the FC Cancer Foundation stepping up, approving the auction for me. I mean, that has to, all these folks. You need to know that all these things get approved. There's a lot of legal that goes into all of this stuff, and so that's something that Pete has done a great job of making sure that we stay in good shape that way, because it's important. It's important that we maintain our integrity through the process.
I don't know. We could talk all day.
Yeah, it's easy to talk all day about the FC Cancer Foundation. It's easy because it's good people doing good things, and I know people have a hard time with the name. But I went to my mother, and I won't tell you her age because she'll kill me, but she is a good Irish Catholic woman, and I asked her about the name, and she wasn't thrilled, but she kind of understood the impact. And at the time, I was close with a pastor, and I asked him, and he said the same thing. It's the impact that you're making, and we can get past it. And especially since it's our slogan, if this word offends you, good, because cancer offends us. Somebody please read my shirt and give me a chance. I just want to go off just a couple more times. But, and what I realized, and Jason actually was the one that said this to me when we were talking, because I was having a hard time with it. I honestly had to debate whether I was going to take the job because of the name of the organization, and whether I was going to be able to say it. And one gave me several ways to say it that I don't say the word. But also Jason said, what's the first thing? He said, what was the first thing you said when they told you you had terminal cancer? And I said, fuck that. Because that's exactly what I said. I mean, people that know me know I like that word a little more than I should anyway, so this was a perfect opportunity to be a little loose with the linguistics. But it's true. It's exactly what I said, because I just thought, I'm too healthy, I've been working out too long, I've been eating too well, I did. I mean, I did all the stuff I was supposed to. I probably did too much of it, but anyway, so I thought this isn't going to happen, so it was fuck that. And no, it was fuck me. So I've spent the last 3 years doing nothing but battle. I've had my kidney removed. I've had my spine reconstructed using titanium in one of my ribs. I've had a lung reinflated a couple of times. I've had stereotactic gamma knife radiation surgery twice, which is just a super intense form of radiation. And then I've had other forms of radiation, and I've been in nonstop chemo. I've pretty much not done chemo, at longest is right now. I've been off for 6 weeks while we're dealing with some other issues. So it's the longest I've gone in 3 years without being on treatment is 6 weeks.
So speaking of treatments and diagnosis and stuff, recently we had some new stuff pop up.
Yeah, we did. Unfortunately, my form of cancer, I have something called kidney cancer, but you'll quickly find out that the name of the cancer just happens to be where they find it, or where its point of origin is. What I have is RCC, renal cell carcinoma, and it is a nasty cancer that is resistant to radiation and chemo. It's not a morphine cancer, so come on, guys, or a mutating cancer. Anyway, it's not a good show. It's very aggressive, and it's resistant to a lot of the current treatments. I'm now down to the last couple of chemo drugs. It's called targeted oral chemo, so instead of being infused, and there's school in and out about which is worse, is losing your hair worse, or what happens because they can't mix a cocktail in a pill. Anyway, I know that infusion is worse, I believe, because I've done that too. Did immunotherapy, didn't work, and right now I have, it's moved into my brain, and we've been lucky up to now that it's sort of stayed, and it's everywhere else, so why not? It's in my spine, it's in my ribs, it's in my lung, my liver, my chest cavity, my jaw, my sacrum. It's everywhere. It just hadn't gone into my brain yet, and unfortunately it has. So we don't really know what's going to work. We're going to do some radiation, which is scary. Radiating the brain is never fun. It's kind of a checks and balances of how much damage they cause and how much they can recover. They want to push you as far as they can, and hopefully you come back. Sometimes you don't. And then we're going to try a new radical chemo. I don't know if it's new and radical, but I know it's new. And I'll be radical. We'll check it out. So we're going to do some chemo. And my doctors, I have a medical team. It's weird. It starts changing from having a doctor to I have a team. We're going to
Your definition of Team Sean, right?
Yeah, Team Sean, way different Team Sean. Yeah, that's, I mean, again, Team Sean never was a nonprofit. It was just about supporting me. I never said it was, but anyway, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so the doctors are doing the best they can, and they have told me to not. It's not time to freak out, so I'm not. I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm also doing a few other things, making sure you maintain your diet, making sure that you maintain your hydration, and as much as you can, maintain your fitness level. So I've got a Wahoo kicker in the corner over there. I'm awfully happy that I have Wahoo kicker Wahoo. And I get on that when I can. I can't ride outside yet because the treatment makes my bone brittle, and I break them all the time. So I'm usually dealing with broken ribs pretty much all the time, which if anybody's broken their ribs knows it's not much fun. But it's what you do. For that I get to live. For that I get another day of doing what I get to do. Waking up, finding gratitude for the simplest things in your life. So believe me, when you're having a shitty ride or a shitty run or a shitty swim or whatever it is that you do that you love and it's not going your way, recognize that you have the benefit of starting over. You get to do it again and again and again and again. But yeah, so you find ways to try and supplement that side of your life. So if it's riding on a trainer or stand-up paddleboarding, I'll never run again, and that's almost more detrimental than to being terminal, because the time I have left, I would love nothing more than to be able to run. I would just run. I would probably pull a Forrest Gump, and I'm not kidding. I would literally find a way to fundraise it or something, and I would run across this country, because I love to run that much. Well, there's got to be a trail all the way across the country, right?
For sure.
It'll keep me off asphalt, right? Anyway, it's my story and I'm sticking to it.
I've only known you for a couple years, and we met the wrong way. I would have much rather had met you when you were an athlete, or over a beer when you're 20 years old or whatever. And, but you came into my life for a reason, and I'm not alone. There are many of us that you came into our lives and made it better. I want to know why you're so damn positive all the time.
Yeah, thank
because
you.
the rest of us are struggling. At times, I'll go to bed and I'll cry myself to sleep just thinking about your journey. And here you are, always up and positive. Why?
I don't know, but I hope these cameras are still running, because if they're not, we're in trouble.
Mine's plugged in. We're good.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know why. Everybody comes from their own place, and so I don't really want to push faith on people. I don't. But faith is something that's very strong in my life, and so for me, I've said the 3 F's. I've said family, friends, and faith. You can put them in any order. They are all important, and that's why I make those comments about caregivers and people in your life.
For sure.
Because if you're lucky enough to have the people to stick around, or those that are willing to come on after they know, like Pete, inspiration is weird to me when people say that I'm an inspiration, because all I'm trying to do is survive each day. And I feel very narcissistic about this process. I feel very self-indulgent about this process because I benefit from it. And so it's almost like a selfish thing that somehow I'm hiding behind. But I just really, really don't want anybody to do this. I really am passionate about, I watched my father die. And then, boy, that sounded wrong. I watched my father do his own battle for 8 years with cancer, and I watched my mother I began to see her for who she truly was, and that is one of the most powerful women in the world. And the way she feels about family, and the way she loved my father, and the way she looked after my father. But I did see that, and I knew that I didn't have that. And so I knew that I didn't want others to go through it, and now I was. So if something I could do, if I could take what I learned from my mom and dad while they were going through it, my father has since passed, and now my mother unfortunately has to go through this again with her son, and I dread that. I just dread the thought of my mother having to process my passing. But it was real. That's not for me. If you guys hear a siren in the back, I just want you to know nothing's wrong here. We're in good shape.
They're just for backup.
It's just backup, just in case. But that's why, because I want to be able to make a difference. I want to be able to say that I helped somebody. I want to be able to as much as you like it or don't like it, and I don't care where you come down on the fence about kids, whether you want them or not, we are our parents' legacy, and we have the right to make that as good or as bad as we'd like. It's our life. So how we go into our life, it's just going to be how they're represented for the rest of their life. It's just the way it works. I don't have children. So I was trying to think of what would be my legacy. And these are things you think about when you're told that you're terminal. How is the world going to remember me? Will they remember me?
Right.
And as much as you might be an independent guy that wants to live, or gal that wants to live on top of a mountaintop, we want to be around people. We don't want to be alone. We don't want to be forgotten. We want to be remembered. And I just wanted to make my mark in a way and have it so that people could say that when the choice was made, he made the right choice. Didn't make the easy decision. Because believe me, this isn't easy. And there's so much of this that I now feel like I don't want to share, but I feel like I should. And believe me, I'll stop if I'm not doing it. This isn't, nobody's forcing me. I don't feel obligated in any which way. I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm doing what I feel I need to be doing. And that's why I dread the possibility of not being able to do it anymore. I mean, I hate to say that puts pressure on the foundation, but I fear the day when I'm just not a good representation of the program or of myself. And it's time to go away, because any race I get to announce, I get power from it. If I have to sit, I know it's not the good look, but if I can still get out there and do it, it means more to me. It helps me with my mental health more than I could ever say. To call people across the finish line is the most powerful thing in the world to me.
Why is that?
It's kind of like your first love. You don't ever forget them. They could be gone 50 years, you've moved on, you've married, you've fallen deeply in love with the person you spend the rest of your life with, you find your soulmate. But you never forget your first love. And for me, I mean, maybe that's putting me too involved in the process, but they may not remember me or anything that was said or what was going on, but they're going to remember the moment they crossed the finish line.
Sure, yeah.
And if it's dead and boring, then that might be how they feel about that finish line, and I don't want that responsibility. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this race is to anybody. It might be their very first one. They might be doing it in honor or in memory of somebody. It might be that they've overcome their own massive issue in their life. I don't know what it is. So I better be on for everybody. And so that's what I want to do. And if I can't be out there running up and down the chute anymore, like my mentor, Whit Raymond, taught me, man. First time I ever worked with Whit, we climbed up in a tower, and there were 2 folding chairs up there, and he goes and he sets his bag down, without saying a word. He's just setting up, takes both chairs, folds them up. Then better yet, he calls down to the guy down below, and he drops the chairs down, and he looks at me and he says, "They don't sit, we don't sit."
Oh.
It's like, all right. So literally, the only time anybody ever knew anything was wrong with me was when I sat down. And I don't like it. I'd rather be out there with you. I'd rather be out there running around that chute. Any coach will tell you that on any race day, they do way more miles than you marathoners do. We're up and back, up and back. But I get out there because it's an opportunity to maybe make that moment for them something special that they'll never forget. And some say the announcer doesn't matter and the music doesn't matter. It matters to me.
What was your first race you ever called?
Talbert Family Foundation, 5 and 10K. They had sent me to Ironman Brazil to race as a representative with their advisor. We drummed up a bunch of support. We got sent down there as a team. My friend and I were coaching together. It was really a way to get our trip paid for. I'm not admitting that. They all knew it. But it was good advertising. And the Talberts, I came back. When I left, they said, when you come back, maybe we talk to you about being kind of our Ironman honorary announcer. And I go, I'm not going to podium or anything. I'm just going to go race. You know? And they said, no. I get there and I'm having second thoughts. The race is over. I got to do it. I'm like, Julie, come on. And she says, Sean, you know everybody and you never shut up, so just do it into the microphone.
It's true.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I can't deny it. I'm not going to fight it. It's the reality of it. So, yeah. So I did it. And there was a race director there from another race who walked up and said, hey, what do you charge? And I said, for what? He said, for race announcing. I said, I'm not a race announcer. He says, yeah, you are. And all I could think is, what'd you pay the last guy? And he paid me like a couple $100. And it was the next town over. So and you want me to play the music too? Okay. Sure. Show up, and a little mixer I'd plug in. It's start doing it, and one thing led to another. Tri-Cal gave me my first shot at a big venue, and from them I got into Nike and then into all the different organizations that were out there. At the time, it was a little easier. There wasn't so much us or them mentality, so to speak. So it was, you could build a career. Plus, there weren't a lot of us at the time. I kind of caught the tail end. There was Mike Riley, Eric Gilson, and Whit Raymond, David Downey, David Ragsdale, Mike down in Texas. I mean, there was so many. There weren't enough that you could count them on two hands. I mean, that were really making it. Now there's, every town I go into, there's another guy that's doing it. He's got his own mobile thing set up, and there's no real history there. It wasn't passed on. I was lucky. Whit mentored me. I mean, he literally taught me how to do my job, and how to do the work, how to do the research, how to set up your binders, how to stay prepared for the next race, how to get to know the athletes, how to remember the athletes, how to get to know the pros, keep a dossier on the pros, because they're going to be at the next race. Because once you get to know, when you first meet them, they're not going to tell you anything. They're not going to tell you what's going on. But once you get to know them and they can trust you, you're not going to out them in a race that they're sandbagging because they want to be ready for the next one, or they're going to come out and win because they need the cash.
Right.
As long as you don't share that stuff, people start to share with you, and it makes you a better announcer. Makes you better at your job. The more knowledge you can have. I mean, Mike Riley's been doing it for so long. He's the first. He's one of the best. He set the standard, but he gave us something to shoot for. So, whatever it is, whatever your feelings are about Mike Riley, you got to give him respect. You got to give him what he's deserved, what he's earned. And then those that came after, he passed it on to individuals as well, and then they passed it on. There's not really the opportunity to do that anymore, unfortunately, because they just stab you in the back and take your work. So, unfortunately, it's true. When I was taught, I said, "Where do you go?" I will never apply for a race that I knew someone else was announcing. I was looking for new series, new races. Well, that's not happening anymore. All right. So it seems as though my career is already over. So it's not like I have to worry about shooting myself in the foot with some of these race production companies. They pretty much all said no more. So you know who you are. You can absolutely use that.
No cutting.
No edit.
No edit.
I'm Sean English, and I approve this message.
You heard it.
That's right. Anything else?
We could probably stop and do it live or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that was rock solid.
See if they're both still running.
Yep.
Sweet.
57 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.